Primal Salutations. So most of you know what I mean when I say sun salutations, this yoga sequence we've been practicing regularly. And this is a slight variation that incorporates some of these animal flow movements we've been practicing, okay? So if you guys are regulars, if you're gonna be coming back to this class, every week or as often as you can, please practice these. And I promise you, you will see huge improvements in your strength, your mobility, and your capacity for a lot of these skills we work on. Let's get right into it with our warm-up, okay? We're gonna start with very simple, just some deep body weight squats, all right? So beginning standing, we're gonna set up with feet about hip distance apart, toes pointed out just slightly. Make sure as you perform your squats, your knees track over the same line that your toes are pointing. So you don't want your knees coming too far out and you don't want them caving in. They should follow the same line as your feet. Inhale as you squat down, as low as you can comfortably, and exhale as you squat up. Inhale down, exhale up. Nice and slow, just giving the hips and the whole body really a chance to start moving, lubricating the joints a little bit, and getting those hips a little bit more open, seeing if we can get a bit more depth with each repetition. And if you really want to challenge your mobility here, both in the hips and the shoulders, I'll encourage you to interlace your fingers, flip the palms out, and then extend the arms up overhead and see if you can keep them nice and high as you squat nice and low. You should feel this running through the whole length of the spine, especially in the shoulders too, like the upper back. And it'll really challenge your hips as well as your shoulder mobility. Continue to breathe with your movement, always super important. Let's go for 2 more. And then we're gonna sink down into our deep squat and we'll proceed with our wrist mobilizations. If you guys have trouble resting in your deep squat for long periods of time, as always, you can use a wall or something stable and kind of sit back against it for some support, and that'll help you sink down and increase your depth, okay? Whether you're in free space or against the wall, we'll begin with our snowballs, interlacing the fingers and just rolling the hands around one another. And switching directions, performing these nice and slow. If you're feeling those cracks and pops, that is normal. That is intended with this one. Maybe not intended, but that might not ever go away. That's just part of these exercises. All right, let's move on to our spinning lotus. So fingers out nice and wide, arms extended straight. We're gonna tuck the thumbs and roll the wrists around one another like we've got those magnetic wristbands on. Bend the elbows, bring the hands close, and then feeding them up through the gap. And repeating for reps. Let's go for a couple more. And then switch directions. All right, coming back to your start position, you can shake it out. Little reminder, as always, you can press the backs of the wrists together, drop the elbows down for your wrist relief position if you get sore. And again, if you'd like, you can modify these movements, assuming you got a nice soft floor with fists or a modified hand position if your wrists start to get sore throughout the workshop, okay? I'm gonna take a step back. We're gonna bring the knees down to the ground, bring the palms down to the ground, fingers facing forward to start, and just gently rocking back and forth over the hands, keeping the fingers spread nice and wide. You should feel the skin between each finger. That's how stretched apart they should be. I like to refer to this as gecko hands because that's what it reminds me of. And just gently starting to shift weight into the wrists, into the hands, and then shift it off. From there, we're going to turn the hands so the fingers point out to the side and rock back and forth. Make sure you continue to breathe, always breathing. Even if I'm not cueing an inhale or an exhale, always remaining aware of the breath. You can bring the wrists a little bit closer, even right together, to really get a good stretch here if you'd like. And then we're going to turn so the fingers point all the way backwards towards the toes and create circles over the palms. The farther in front of you your hands are for this one, the deeper of a stretch you're going to get. And personally, I find the toughest part is keeping my thumb straight and extended out. So I'm always really thinking about getting my thumbs extended and staying active through my hands as I do this, as opposed to being passive and just letting the ground do all the stretching. I'm literally trying to open up my hands, extend my fingers as much as I can. If you haven't already, switch directions with your circles over the palms, or you might even alternate, one in one direction, one in the other. And then you can shift your weight off the hands, sit back to the heels, shake the hands out a little bit. And we're going to proceed with lateral apes. So we'll start on the left side of our space, whatever side you choose, really. And we're going to be traveling to the side. So for our lateral apes, we're going to drop opposite limb in front of opposite foot. So in my case, my left hand's going to go in front of my right foot. My right hand's going to go out wide, about shoulder distance. I'm going to lift onto my toes, push into my hands. My outside foot's going to lift. My inside foot's going to lift. And then my inside foot lands as I swing across. My outside foot lands, and I come back to my deep squat or my deep ape. Repeating another repetition, lifting onto the toes, pushing, swinging across, landing. When you run out of space, you can travel in the opposite direction. And I really strongly encourage you to think about pushing as much as possible and performing these repetitions as slow as you can. It's all about that straight arm control, that straight arm pushing strength. These are really going to help us build up our upper body. Let's come back to the center of our space. We're going to set up in a tabletop position and proceed with a few cat-cows. So knees should be right underneath the hips, hands right underneath the shoulders, fingers spread nice and wide, spine's neutral. And as we take an inhale, we're dropping the belly towards the floor, arching the low back, pinching the shoulder blades together, and then gazing up. As we exhale, tucking the tailbone, squeezing the glutes, and posteriorly rotating the hips, pushing through the shoulder blades so they spread apart, and then gazing down towards the knees or towards the navel. Inhale, pinching the shoulder blades together, arching the spine, gazing up. Exhale, rounding the spine, pushing the shoulder blades apart, driving the floor away, and gazing towards the knees. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. And take these at your own pace. You can go nice and slow, and really, as well as obviously a great spinal mobilizer, this is also a really great chance to tune in with your breathing and really coordinate those breaths with your movement. Let's take a few more cats and cows as I fix my microphone. Got something funky going on. Awesome. Let's come back to a neutral tabletop position, nice straight spine. Slide the knees forward just a little bit. So now they're underneath the belly button, not the hips. Tuck the toes underneath. Make sure you're nice and neutral through the spine and slightly protracted shoulder blades. So you're keeping your arms nice and straight, pushing the ground away, externally rotating the arms so the inner elbow points forward, and then hovering the knees over the floor. Proceeding with our beast activations. Hovering the right foot over the floor, just a little bit. 1. Left foot hovers. 2. Right hand hovers, retracting the shoulder blade. Keep the arms straight. 3. Left hand hovers, retracting the shoulder blade. 4. Now right hand and left foot hovers. 5. Right foot and left hand 6. And then from here, let's take a few steps forward. Lift, stride, land. Lift, stride, land. And continue striding forward, nice and slow, small steps, as much control as you can. And then when you run out of space, stride backwards. As always, coordinating your movements with your breath. Let's come back to the center of our space, taking a few strides to do so. And we're going to set up now in our crab position. So flipping over, bum comes to the floor. Take a little breather. Oh my gosh, even I'm tired after all that. We're going to set up, feet on the floor, hips on the floor, hands behind us, fingers pointing backwards, pinching the shoulder blades together, keeping the whole length of the spine active, gazing up slightly, almost towards the rising sun. Okay. And find that midpoint between the hips, between the heels and the wrists for the hips. So you should rest right in the middle and hover the hips in the air, creating this capital M shape, okay? From here, we're gonna proceed with our activations. Right foot hovers, 1, and down. Left foot hovers, 2, and down. Right hand hovers, shrugging the shoulder to the ear, 3, and down. Left hand, 4, and down. And now contralateral, left foot, right hand, hovers, hold briefly, that's 5, down, and 6, left hand, right foot, down. And now we're gonna travel forward, lift, stride, land. Lift, stride, land, lift, stride, land, and continue. Take this at your own pace. Nice, small steps. If you find that your body you lose that proper crab alignment, you can rest your hips down, reset, and then continue traveling. These ones are a little bit more complex than the beast, but if you take it slow, if you're mindful, you should be able to get it. Let's take a few strides to come back to the center of our space, keeping those shoulder blades pinched together in our crab as much as possible. Even when we get fatigued, keep thinking about pinching, okay? Lower the hips to the floor, take a little breather, let the shoulders rest. You can shake it out, the palms a little bit if you're feeling it in the wrists. Crab tends to put a nice stretch in the forearms and the wrists, so that's totally normal. And when you're ready, we're gonna set back up in crab and finish off our little warm up here with some under switches. So from crab, we're gonna do a right leg under switch, meaning right foot and left hand lifts. We're gonna press on the gas with the left foot, so our left heel lifts as well. And then we're gonna rotate from crab to beast. Right leg travels underneath us through the window. Left leg under switch. Left leg travels underneath us through the window between the planted foot and hand, landing again in crab. Right leg under switch, landing in beast. Left leg under switch, landing in crab. Right leg under switch, left leg under switch. Right leg under switch, left leg under switch. And going back the opposite direction now. We should have done 8, completing a full circle. If you need to, rest the hips, take a little break, shake it out. Setting up in crab, left leg under switch. Right leg under switch. Left leg under switch. Right leg under switch. Left, right, left. Last one, right leg under switch, landing us in crab. You can lower the hips to the ground. You can pick whatever posture you need to. Take a little breather. Shake the hands out. Deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Pick whatever seated posture feels comfortable for you. You can rest your hands on your thighs or in your lap. And just focus on that belly breathing for a moment, allowing the heart to calm down a bit, giving the muscles a little bit of a break. Finding that balance between the sympathetic and parasympathetic, focusing on expanding the belly as we inhale and drawing the belly button in as we exhale. Inhale, expanding the belly. Exhale, contracting the belly. Let's take a few more deep belly breaths. And at this point, if your heart's racing, you can really tune into the heartbeat. It's quite a soothing sensation if you can feel it. Okay, so finding that optimal balance between between focus, this rested kind of alert focus, and our activity, our active state when our heart's beating. This balanced state where we're both mentally fresh and alert, but also physically ready to go. Our temperature's up a little bit, the heart's racing a little bit. This is an ideal state for our movement practice. Okay, we're not overly fatigued, but we're also not cold, right? So here's the last part. I would say we're definitely warmed up now, but this is the last part of that consistent part of our classes that we're going to continue with. Okay, these are the primal salutations that I mentioned earlier. Okay, we're going to set up standing. If you have a mat, you're going to be about 1.5 feet from the top of your mat. And if you're in space, just give yourself a few feet in front of you and make sure there's lots of space behind you. Okay, so we're going to set up with our feet hip distance apart, toes pointed slightly outwards as though we were going to go for our deep squats. Okay, finding length through the spine. So taking an inhale, imagining the top of the head rising up towards the ceiling, squeezing the glutes, squeezing the core, and just finding a light activation through the entire body, from the bottoms of the feet to the top of the head, rooting down through the feet, pressing the toes into the floor, and really just tuning in with our bodies, tuning in with ourselves, and setting this intention to be as mindful as possible as we move through a few rounds of our primal salutations. As we inhale, raising the arms overhead, bringing the palms together, squeezing the glutes, pushing the hips forward gently, opening the shoulders as much as possible. And then on exhale, sinking down into that deep squat, keeping the arms overhead. Bring the fingertips or the palms to the floor. Inhale to raise the hips up. Try to keep the spine straight. If you need to, keep a slight bend in the knees. If you're nice and flexible, you can extend the legs straight. From here, exhale, walk the feet back to plank position, and then as slowly as possible, lower yourself to the floor like you were doing the negative of a push-up. From here, inhale, wave push-up or peel the chest up to cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, chin to chest, waving back, hips up high, extending the legs straight, coming to downward facing dog, reaching the heels to the ground, holding here for 3 deep breaths. On an inhale, bend the knees, tap the hips to the heels, loaded beast. And on an exhale, hop the feet forward, landing as softly as you can in your deep squat. Inhale, raise the arms up overhead, palms together, and then stand up straight, pushing the hips forward, squeezing the glutes. Round 2, we're going to start building on the flow here. Exhale, sinking back down into the deep squat, arms overhead, and then bring the fingertips or the palms to the floor. Inhale, raising the hips up. This time we're going to try and float the feet back. So shift some weight into the hands and see if you can float the feet back to your plank. That's a serious challenge, so don't worry if you're not there yet, okay? Lower your chest to the floor on an exhale, and then inhale, Upward facing dog. Exhale, chin to chest, waving back to downward facing dog. Holding here for 3 deep breaths. On an inhale, bend the knees, tap the hips to the heels. And then we're going to proceed with a scorpion reach on the right side. So right knee drives forward to tap the left wrist, kind of like a modified plank. And then as you inhale, drawing a circular pattern with the toes up and around, reaching the toes across the body, and then holding here, hips as high as you can, slight bend in the left knee, trying to open the hips to the side of your space as much as you can, and reaching those toes across, stretching the lateral line of the body. Hold here for a couple more deep breaths. And then on an exhale, we're going to bring that right knee down and forward into the chest, and then try and drop the right foot between the hands. As you inhale, raise your chest up, arms overhead, palms together in a double bent leg lunge. And then you're going to try and extend that back leg straight. Squeeze the left glute and squeeze the left quad. You should feel a nice stretch through your left hip flexor, the front of your hips on the left side. On an exhale, bring your hands back down to your mat on the outsides of your right foot. Step the right foot back to plank, and then inhale, tap the hips to the heels, loaded beast. Same thing, opposite side. Exhale, left knee to right wrist. Inhale, left leg, scorpion reach, hips high, reaching the left toes across the body, opening the hips to the left side of our space, slight bend in the right knee. Take a couple deep breaths. On an exhale, bringing that left knee into the chest, planting the left foot between the hands. Inhale to rise up, arms overhead, double bent leg lunge. And then exhale to straighten the right leg, squeezing the right glute and the quad, feeling that good stretch through the hip flexor. On an exhale, bring the hands back down to the mat on the outside of the left foot. Step the left foot back to plank. Push the hips back to the heels. Inhale. Exhale, float forwards, landing as softly as possible in your deep squat. Inhale, raising the arms overhead, and then stand tall, pushing the hips forward. Proceeding, last round, we're gonna extend that just a little bit more, okay? Take an inhale, exhale, sinking into the deep squat, bringing the palms or fingertips to the floor. Inhale, hips high. This time, really shift your weight into the palm. See if you can float your toes. If you're crazy like me, you might come up into a handstand before coming back to a plank and then lowering yourself down to the ground. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale, chin to chest, waving back, downward facing dog. Holding here for 3 deep breaths. On an exhale, right knee to left wrist. Inhale, right leg scorpion switch. So we're drawing that circular pattern, then stretching so much, extending the left leg straight that our body flips, bringing the hips to the ground, landing in that modified crab position. In this position, on this side, your left leg should be extended straight and your right leg should be bent, okay? What we're gonna do is roll through, doing that same motion backwards. But before we do that, to prepare, we're going to lift up and down 3 times, okay? So pressing through the right leg, reaching with the right arm for 1, inhale, and coming down, exhale. 2, inhale, down, exhale. And on 3, inhale, roll through, coming to the peak of that scorpion reach. And then exhale as you bring your right knee forward, bring it into the chest, right foot between the hands. Inhale to rise up, double bent leg lunge. Oh, my microphone. And then exhale to extend that leg straight. Hold here for a couple deep breaths. On an exhale, bringing your hands down to the ground, step the right foot back. Inhale, loaded beast, tapping the hips to the heels. Exhale, left knee to right wrist. Inhale, scorpion switch, drawing the toes across the body, stretching, flipping, landing in modified crab. From here, same thing. Inhale, press through the left foot, extending the hips up, reaching with the left arm. For 1, exhale down, extend and reach. 2, exhale down, inhale. 3, rolling through, hitting the peak of our scorpion reach, and then bringing the left knee into the chest, dropping the left foot between the hands. Inhale, rising up, arms overhead, double bent leg lunge. Exhale, extend the back leg straight. Take a couple deep breaths. On an exhale, bringing the hands down to the floor on the outside of the left foot. Stepping the left foot back to plank. Inhale, tap the hips to the heels. Loaded beast. Exhale, hopping forward, floating, getting some hang time if possible. Landing softly in your deep squat. Inhale, arms overhead, and stand nice and tall. Exhale, bring your arms by your sides. Stand nice and tall, elongate the spine, tune back in, take some deep breaths, allowing the heart rate to slow a little bit, allowing the body and the mind to calm down a little bit. Lying down on your back with both knees bent and crossing the left ankle over the right knee, bringing the right knee into the chest. Feed your left hand through the hole between your thighs and interlace your fingers around the back of your right thigh, gently drawing that knee into the chest. Taking some deep breaths here in your figure 4 fold. If you'd like to get an extra little stretch in the hamstrings, you can extend your right leg straight, flex the foot so that your toes point back towards your face. Really squeeze through the quad. Take a couple deep breaths. And then if your leg was straightened, you can bend it once again, okay? Release the thigh, but keep your ankle crossed, okay? Bring your right foot down to the floor. Extend your arms out in a T shape. All right. And now we're going to squeeze the glutes, lift the tailbone from the floor, and then press the hips up into the air as high as we can. At the same time, pressing the left knee down to the floor. Lots of external rotation here. Take a couple deep breaths. And then very gently, very slowly lowering the hips back down to the ground, and then twisting very gently so that your right thigh and your left foot come to the floor on your right side. And then you can gently gaze to your left. Take some deep breaths here. Slowly bring both legs back to neutral. We're going to switch sides. So this time our right ankle crosses over the left knee. Okay. We're going to bring the left knee into the chest, interlace the fingers behind the thigh, draw the knee in. And as you do this, think about reaching your sacrum or your tailbone to the floor as you draw the knee into the chest. So if you feel like your hips are really lifted, try and push them back down to the floor. Even if it means you can't bring your knee into the chest quite as much, that's okay. Just draw it in as much as you can. If you'd like to get an extra stretch in the hamstrings, you can flex the foot, extend the leg straight, take a couple deep breaths. Release the leg, bending the knee if it was straight.
releasing the thigh, bringing the left foot back down to the floor. Arms come out in a T shape. Squeeze the glutes, lifting the tailbone from the ground, and then gently lifting the hips up as high as you can into the air. At the same time, pressing the right knee down. Slowly, gently bringing the hips back down to the ground, dropping the left thigh, the right foot to our left side, and then gazing to the right in our figure 4 twist, taking a couple deep breaths. Coming back to neutral. You can uncross the legs, extend the legs straight, bring your arms down next to you, just gently by your side. And take a few deep breaths, feeling the belly rise as you inhale and fall as you exhale. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. And just taking a final few moments to allow your body to just melt into the floor, knowing that you've done the work, being grateful for taking care of yourself and your body today, knowing that I'm grateful for all of you for coming to class today, and just enjoying the feeling of the breath, the feeling of the belly rising and falling. When you're ready, if you'd like, you can stay in your Shavasana, or you can very gently, very slowly roll to your right side and slowly come up to a seated position. That concludes the class for today. Thank you all so much for joining me.